Data breaches topped the news last year. The Internet of Things and big data finally intersect in a meaningful way for consumers. Our mobile digital identity redefines healthcare. These three technologies trends have captured our attention in the last few months. Mr. Rangu Zagami, Chief Executive, Growth Venture and Service Providers Group of Tata Communications, will be making a presentation on issues that have gotten attention but need more action in 2015. This keynote will explain why the industry needs to jump from talking about it to really making it happen. This year, mobile security, big data, and the Internet of Things could finally come together to benefit the consumer. Mr. Rangu Sagami belongs to the Tata Communications Group and is part of the 103 billion global conglomerate of the Tata Group. Rangu leads a multi-billion-dollar diverse portfolio of global businesses in carrier services, mobility, data center, cloud, and media. He has spent over 20 years working in more than 30 countries, connecting new markets to existing markets, partnering with government and business leaders in diverse cultural environments around the world. Now, Raghu has a history of seizing big moments to create change, from building the Internet Business Group at Verizon, now known as Verizon Business, back in the late 90s, to establishing Cisco as a major player in India and other emerging markets in the early 2000s, to recognizing the global need for cybersecurity as scaled in 2008. Raghu holds an MBA from the Wharton School, the University of Pennsylvania. He also has an MS and BE degrees in engineering. May I invite Mr. Raghu, please.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you. Good morning, aloha. This is my first PTC, and it's a pleasure to be here. My marketing team had promised me that PTC is, because it's in Hawaii, bars open before breakfast, but I didn't see that, so I'm sure you're all eager to the various events this evening, and had a good last couple of days here. If this is on, let's see. It's good to be here and getting to know a lot of folks in the industry and meeting new ones as well. What I'm going to do is talk about, just let you share your story, how we ended up picking this topic. During the holiday season, my marketing head, she had called me up. We were chatting about some business stuff and talking about some industry announcement or event that evening. And we ended up chatting about what's going to come next year. I started saying some things. Looks like I had a couple of glasses of wine and started saying a few things about what I think next year will happen. Next morning, she sends me an email with a long things about what I apparently said last night. And it was all predictions that Rangu is saying for next year. And she had written up a blog on that. So that's how I ended up picking this topic. So I was coming to PTC, and we decided, let me take a few things that we were thinking as a company, as the kind of topics that we are looking at the industry, and I thought I'll share those observations with you all. I ain't no futurist, but at the same time, as all of us face all this industry upheaval, innovation, as well as opportunities and challenges that we see in the market, it's sometimes good to reflect, step back, and see, if you see certain trends that are coming up or accelerating, what role can we as an industry, as individual companies, play in seizing those moments of opportunities and also shaping them at the same time. So there are a few, I picked three topics or so around what I thought. I'll share my observations. One is on cybersecurity, second being Internet of Things, and third around mobility. And these are three. I mean, there are lots of other things we all face with, whether it's cloud, things happening in media. But those three, I think, were interesting. where I believe that getting to this year, we as an industry might be seeing some very transformational things happening. And the impact on us in terms of how the market develops, what kind of business models will evolve, or what kind of business models we can shape, and what kind of partnerships and things that will evolve in this industry. I thought I'll share some of that perspective, and it'll have an impact on how each one of us kind of sees those moments in the industry. Cybersecurity, not a day goes by without a headline screaming at us about some company being hacked, some privacy, customer data being lost. So this is now become a daily issue. If you look back at last year, we started the year when Target was seriously attacked. Target, for many of you who may not know, Target is a big US department chain. And at that time, in December 2013, the industry said there were about $148 million loss to Target because of breach. Now, 6 months later, the CEO lost the job, CEO of Target. First time in the history of the business world that a CEO lost job because of cybersecurity. And it was not because $148 million. That's peanuts for a large company. Actually, it was an issue, it was an existential issue for the company. That's the threat we face in cybersecurity today, where companies are at serious risk. It's not about just losing customer privacy data, credit fraud, or other kinds of issues that can be quantified in some measure, but it's really the existence of the company is that threat. And the year ended with a dramatic issue that happened with Sony. And most of you must have followed the interview, the movie interview, that got so much attention because of the attack that Sony had. Not only was the attack on its data, but the data was destroyed. And at the same time, the geopolitics of the world was brought to bear. What happened within Korea, Japan, of a private corporation. And in the end, the year ended with President Obama being dragged into this conversation and had to make comments and take a position. So the whole business, geopolitics, technology, everything coming to bear at the same time, and that's a huge issue. And this was not about Sony just, there's some of their data being lost or a movie being pirated out. And I happened to see that movie, not pirated, but paid $5 on the Christmas Eve to watch interview, and many of you must have. Not because the movie was great, but it's got so much attention that, the impact that cybersecurity is having on our daily life now. There was an article in The Economist yesterday, I think, and New York Times covered a very similar piece a couple of weeks ago about what now the industry called ransomware. I don't know if any of you have faced this, but common ordinary citizens are being now completely hijacked, their computers, by criminals, and are being ransom payments of very small amounts, like $200, $300. And these are these are done very professionally. The payments are done through Bitcoins. You get a full user manual about how to go and make that $300 payment at a Bitcoin ATM, how to get the transfer from your regular checking account. So this is a machine that's working. So these are the kind of things that we are facing as a world in terms of cyber issues. This is not new. Over the last 10 years, it has accelerated. But companies ignored, nations ignored. People didn't realize the big threat that was looming in front of them. Until last year, I believe it really accelerated. So what I think is the implication for the market, for the industry, is cybersecurity, I believe, is now going to become a board agenda. Every corporation, every major corporation in the world, the CEO is going to be faced by the board on cybersecurity. And that has implications to the whole world, not just from a technology perspective, but how you deal with cybersecurity issues. We as suppliers to that industry, everything goes on our networks, and what does it mean to us? And I'll share about that in a second, what my view is. Second, issues. I think this is an old slide, Isabel. Can we fix it in the back, please? This is not the slide I made. That's okay, I'll continue. The point I was making is, in terms of the topics, the issues about the boards getting involved, what happened with Target was just the beginning of every major institution, whether you're a bank or a private company or a global corporation or a technology company, your business survival depends on how well you're secured. And for us as suppliers to the industry, It means not about any, we will be called upon by the boards of these companies to be accountable for security breaches. And so what does it mean to us? It's not about SLAs anymore. It's not about technology. You don't go to the board member of your client and say, we met our SLA. That's not going to suffice. We as an industry now will have to deal with how do we provide the confidence to our customers at the senior level, at the board level, that they have a good grasp of their data, of their cybersecurity infrastructure, about the confidence, the visibility of the network and other assets, that they can now assess the risk and be able to mitigate those risks and put in places the strategies that they need to put to protect the business. So that's the phase we are in. I think that's the change when it means from cybersecurity being a technology issue to becoming a board issue. So when it comes to nations, I believe, many of you have probably followed this over the last many years. There has been talk about cyber warfare. Most of the nations are doing some activity, whether it's espionage or other aspects of attacks on nations. And cyber warfare is becoming a mainstay of armed forces. So, and that intersecting with economic issues, with other geopolitical problems, I believe cybersecurity from a nation perspective is going to get the highest level of attention. And many countries will start treating cyber command as a new wing of the armed forces. And that will have implications about how technology is consumed, how our industry interfaces with nations and governments and on the global scale. So that has implications to us. So those are two things I believe will have a serious a start to some big changes this coming year over the next 12 to 18 months. I mentioned about ransomware. The last 3 to 4 months, this has really got sophisticated, very, very simple to do. And there was this New York Times articles that I referred to. They talks about how trusted these criminals are. They talked about this individual, a mom who was attacked, and she was late to payment by a few hours because of Thanksgiving or something. And she wrote an email saying that she was late, and they came back within a few hours, waived her penalty fees, and accepted the money they had put in the Bitcoin bank. So that's the level of sophistication and also the trust they're developing in the criminal activity. It's very interesting. So I believe getting into 2015 and beyond, at least for the next few years, ransomware is going to become part of our daily life. It's an inevitable part of our daily life. It's part of cost, few $100, probably all of us will have to share to survive and protect our assets and personal assets. So that's what I believe is going to have an impact coming to this year. Internet of Things, again, it's not new for us as an industry. It's been talked about. You look at various reports, whether it's Cisco, talking about billions of devices getting on the internet. We hear about machine-to-machine. Many of us are involved in initiatives that our customers are making us get involved, or we are seeing market opportunities. This is dramatically changing the way data is going to be sensed, observed, and collected in our daily life and in the business life. Now, what does it mean? I mean, this is not new. Again, things are going on. Last year, Google closed its deal with Nest. Mercedes announced its first self-driving car. You're seeing things like Fitbit and other kinds of wellness devices that are becoming mainstay of our life. But from a telecom industry perspective, what does it mean? I believe that this year is going to be first one of the early signs of major adoption of IoT devices, but it's going to be driven heavily by vertical solutions. This is not something about just deploying like routers everywhere in the world, but it is about having devices which are driven by certain vertical markets needs. So like in healthcare, there will be driven, every healthcare device, like a CAT scan machine to every healthcare device would be IP enabled, and they'll have to interoperate, and there will be vertical solutions based on healthcare, driving healthcare solutions in the market on IoT platforms around the world. It could be in manufacturing, where you'll have manufacturing plants around the world, where your end products are shipped, your plants are being monitored, your end machine tools are monitored by IP sensors. So everything is IP enabled, and you have manufacturing solutions getting in. So from an industry perspective, I believe that this year and beyond, in the coming years, next 12 to 18 months, we're going to see a lot of effort towards standard setting. And standards, this is an industry still is devoid of standards. beyond IP as a protocol, not much has happened from a standard perspective. Every company is doing things. So you talk to GE, you talk to Siemens, major medical companies, they are making the devices IP enabled. But how do you bring interoperability into that? How do you have large-scale deployment so that you can truly have, for example, chronic illness management as a solution being provided by healthcare providers? So those, I think, will be a big change coming in this year. And again, what does it mean? A call to action for us as an industry is what kind of influence and how do we shape these standards and get involved early on that we can have visibility as well as be able to see some market opportunities along the way. Here's some examples. I mentioned healthcare as a vertical. We see explosion of wearables, wellness wearables. That's what you saw last year. But going to this year, I think, as I mentioned, there will be very interesting applications coming. A data that just happened to see recently in the US, 45% of adults have at least one chronic illness. And 40% of those monitor for health indicators, their personal health indicators, to manage those chronic illnesses. Now, there's a tremendous amount of effort going on to be able to remotely manage those issues. And so the whole topic around management of chronic illness is going to become probably potentially a big opportunity. And there, again, it comes into what kind of standards are developed, what kind of privacy issues are dealt with, what kind of compliance issues are dealt with. All that will start coming into play. You can't just go into healthcare without being able to deal with this. But experiments have come along. If we are, many of us may have been to CES a couple of weeks ago. A lot of attention in this space, in the healthcare, Internet of Things, and around the whole, digital health is becoming a platform of significant importance. The third thing I want to touch about is around mobility. We have, as you all know, we have over 3 billion internet users around the world. And that has happened over the last 10, 15 years with a dramatic penetration in the developed worlds and also some of the early penetration in emerging markets like India and China. What I believe in the next 10 years, we're going to see the next 3 billion of internet users going to get added to the internet population, and that's going to have a dramatic impact. If you look at what happened in general in the economy, global economy in the last 10, 15 years, emerging markets have overtaken the developed markets in terms of the economic size and the growth rates in these countries, be it China or Brazil or India and other countries which have made significant strides in their economic growth. And next 10 years, if 3 more billion people in these countries collectively get on the internet, it's going to have a dramatic impact on the balancing of power and economy between the developed world and the developing world. How? I think there are 3 areas that can fundamentally change because of the next 3 billion coming online. Even this morning, I don't know if you picked it up, Google just announced $1 billion, I think it's a $1 billion investment in SpaceX to bring satellite-based internet coverage around the world. And these are, and Google has Loon Project, Facebook and others are developing internet.org. These are a number of initiatives which is driving the need or the desire to bring internet to the next 3 billion. And the areas that I believe will have a dramatic impact are these 3 areas. First, empowerment of women. Think about what happened with microfinancing 10 years ago or 20 years ago when microfinancing was brought to rural places, poor places in Bangladesh and other countries. Dramatically changed those countries because of women being empowered, being able to finance their own businesses, being able to manage their family. These have profound social and economic impact. And think about if every one of them got mobile access. The independence and empowerment of women, I believe, will completely change the social fabric in these emerging countries, underdeveloped countries, and again, will have an impact on the global stage. Education. Many of us are familiar with MOOCs, which is the massive open source effort on education standard. Many of the institutions like Stanford and others are part of it. It's definitely making a big impact, but having mobile users of 3 billion, underprivileged, poor people would bring tremendous opportunities to bring education to young as well as adults in this population and be able to drive changes that we have not seen before. And the third, just to quickly wrap up, is in healthcare. We touched on healthcare earlier, but having mobile access for 3 billion people who otherwise do not have daily access to healthcare, but bring awareness, whether you're a expecting mother or families having sickness in their homes, being able to deal with education, with awareness, with knowledge of healthcare, again, will have a dramatic impact, and of course, delivery of healthcare as well. So the next 3 billion will completely rebalance, in my view, again, what we're seeing between the developed world and the developing world. And that will change in terms of economic activities, investment opportunities, and also how the globalization of world and business will happen. So that's my quick kind of thoughts on the 3 major areas for the coming year. I think cybersecurity is going to become a dramatic board-level agenda, which will impact for us as an industry. IoT is going to be largely driven by vertical solutions and standard setting. And then mobility, as I mentioned just in the last couple of minutes, the next 3 billion people coming online will rebalance what's going on between East and West, or developed markets and developing markets. And it's a huge opportunity for us as an industry, and also we can play a lot of proactive role in the market. Thank you.